Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we have an interesting new development in the Fergus Ewing story. God, it could almost be his life. Could be a biopic coming out of this one. What's happened now is people have been asking him, now that he's been suspended, now that he's had the whip removed, and they're saying, will you rejoin at the end of the week? Now, if you remember, they did the same thing, of course, to Angus MacNeil. And Angus MacNeil said, no, I'm not rejoining until blah, 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 whatever it would be. So he was talking maybe the end of October or just before I think it was just before the conference, he was thinking he would come back. Of course, then they pulled it entirely and he's out and he's an independent and he said, right, sod you, I'm off. Well, it looks like Fergus Ewing may be going down the same line. He's obviously, I'm going to say, deeply upset at the treatment he's received. And I'm not saying that he is having a hissy fit or anything. I think he is got to the point where the party is no longer the party that he joined. And I think he's become entirely disillusioned with it. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. But he was asked if he would rejoin, and he declined to confirm. Put it that way. We'll take a look at this piece. But I think many people would not be surprised if his days as an SNP MSP are now one and truly done. And that would be a very sad day when you consider how important his mother was to the party. But anyway, we'll take a look, see what's going on. So, Fergus Ewing refuses to say if he will rejoin the SNP after his suspension for rebelling against Humza Yousaf. He more rebelled against the Greens. They keep pushing this. They have this line that he's rebelling against Humza Yousaf. He does rebel against Humza, but virtually all of his rebellions recently have been against the Greens and Green policies rather than the SNP. The former Scottish Government minister was asked if he was going to rejoin his fellow nationalist MSPs after being suspended, but he refused to confirm if he would, whilst he also dodged questions about a potential defection to Alex Salmond's Alba party. I think he would rather be independent than go with Salmond. Don't think there's any personal animosity there. I just think that he recognises that it's really a non-starter in the political world. My personal view is it was only set up to give Alex Salmond an income, you know. Anyway, SNP rebel Fergus Ewing refused to say whether he would rejoin the nationalist group at Holyrood once his 1 week suspension comes to an end. Well, he's only got 5 days left. And he's back, possibly. The veteran MSP was handed the punishment on Wednesday night following a meeting of MSPs. The Inverness and Nairn representative had rebelled against Humza Yousaf's administration repeatedly over the last year, including voting against the government to sack Scottish Greens Minister Lorna Slater. Well, it could be Lorna Green, couldn't it? Lorna Slater. Now, of course, she's Green, not SNP, so it's not something he's done against his party. He'd also been outspoken against SNP failures due to the A9 and to restrict fishing in Scottish waters. Both of them. Green policy, not SNP policy. It culminated in a summit between MSPs on Wednesday night where it was decided that he should be suspended for the party for a week, and we've covered this. He said, the SNP is not an ordinary party. We're a party that's always put Scotland first, and that means to me putting the interests of people of Scotland first, but in good conscience. It grieves me to say this, I don't believe that is the case anymore. Anyway, we covered that speech yesterday. But anyway, Mr. Ewing has refused to say now whether he will even rejoin his own party after his suspension is up. And I don't think he will. I mean, he may well do. I can't guarantee. I don't know the thinking in his mind. But I get the impression from that speech he gave yesterday that if you read the subtext, I think he's done. I think he's had it with the SNP. Speaking to the Herald following First Minister's questions, he said, I've been suspended for a week and that was a decision of the group. He says, I'll have to consider that and decide what to do. I haven't begun to do that yet because I'm focusing on speaking out about my constituents' interests. And that's the thing. He does actually look after his constituents. He's not a party apparatchik or yes man or anything like that. He is he's a man who believes in the SNP and what the SNP should stand for. But he also represents his constituents first and foremost. A very rare thing in politics these days. The former government minister also dodged questions about whether he is about to jump ship to the Alba Party when questioned by journalists about this. And he also refused to say whether he's spoken to former First Minister Alex Salmond as well. He's playing, he's keeping his cards very close to his chest. He's playing a very quiet game. I think, as I say, if you read the subtext in his speech, it's quite apparent what he's thinking. Whether he goes through with it or not is another matter. But I think the SNP now must look at this and realise that they've made a massive mistake, because Fergus Ewing represents one of the few good guys that they have, and a lot of people are very, how can we put it, very loyal to Fergus. I think it will open up a division in the SNP that may not ever be closed while Humza Yousaf is leader. I think Humza Yousaf has made the biggest mistake he could make, and I think this is the mistake that will end his leadership. Asked by the Daily Record if he would defect to Alba, he said, "Come on, any serious questions?" See, I said that, he wouldn't. Ewing was also asked if he'd spoken to Mr. Salmond this week, and he said, "Look, I don't really see now how I have to start explaining who I speak to and who I don't." And he said, after being asked the same question again, he says, "Well, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer that question." Why on earth would he not answer the question? He says, because he doesn't want to. Fair enough. It means he may well have spoken to him, but it doesn't mean that he's going. They're all old boys together. They all know each other. It's a big closed shop. I'm sure Alex has rung him and said, "How you doing?" What's the word? Testing the water, as it were. Mr. Yousaf was also questioned about Mr. Ewing's future in the SNP and was more positive about it. He said people should represent their constituents, but if you're a member of the SNP, elected on the SNP ticket, there is, of course, standing orders imposed that you have to abide as an SNP MSP, which means party first. That's the standing order. Party before people. And that is fascism. That's what the National Socialists said back in the 30s. And so they're playing the same sort of, rule that you have to back the party and you have to back the leaders of the party. That was also some of the same thing as the National Socialists in Germany in the 30s. So same playbook again. It gives you the direction of travel for the SNP, doesn't it? The SNP leader said Mr. Ewing was in breach of those standing orders, adding that a very proportionate sanction of a week's suspension from the parliamentary group at Holyrood had been overwhelmingly backed by MSPs. He had a hope that after a week Fergus is reinstated back as an SNP MSP. I wouldn't count on that. I really wouldn't. I think you've pushed him once too far. Mr. Yousaf himself dodged the vote to suspend his colleague as he went home from Parliament strangely and suspiciously ill, even though he was back there the next day looking bright and perky and answering First Minister's questions as though he hadn't really been ill at all, because he knows it wouldn't look good if he voted to get rid of one of the best MSPs that the party's got. What do you do? Anyway, I'll stop there. I think that'll do. I'll come up and we'll round off the video. This whole Fergus Ewing story, it's turning into a saga, really, isn't it? It's the saga of the King of the North. Because he actually, thinking about it, he could utterly humiliate Humza Yousaf. If he waited till, say, a couple of days before the conference up in Aberdeen, I mean, he could just sit there and about 3 days before, say, and announce that he's going to resign as an MP to force a by-election, then re-stand, so that he was giving the people, his constituents, the option of having him as an MP as an independent rather than that who they voted for, which was the SNP. Well, I guarantee the people of Inverness would vote him straight back in as an independent because he is so highly respected. And all it would take would be for Labour and Tories and Lib Dems to say, actually, I tell you what, we're not going to field anyone, and let the SNP field someone. And I tell you, it would be fantastic. And if he obviously couldn't get the election before the conference, but if you had that announcement dropping 3 days before, Humza Yousaf walking into that hall. That hall's about, I don't know, 30,000 people or something stupid. And there'll only be about 500 people there. It'll be a big empty hall with a few people, and a dog. And knowing that one of the biggest names of the party has just quit because of Humza Yousaf. What would Kate Forbes do? Because Kate Forbes knows this would be an ideal opportunity. They could nail Humza Yousaf's balls to a door. Oh, I tell you what, this will make a great film one day. The SMP story. Nobody would believe a word of it. But, hey. Anyway, I should stop there. Speculation time, isn't it? I don't want to go and speculate too much. But it would be great. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has earned a subscribe. We're getting close, very close now, to a fantastic target. So do please help us get to that target. Hit that subscribe button, help the channel. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and watch this space because this story isn't over yet. Bye.